Good morning from a very blustery, stormy France. It's blowing a gale. It has been. It's brightened up a little bit now. I'm kind of looking a bit wild, but partly because I've been on my fixed bike trainer, which is set up on my patio outside, and riding a virtual route, which today I chose a route in Richmond, Virginia. So beautiful, kind of sunshine on this virtual route and countryside. And I'm outside on my patio in a gale, almost with the rain kind of blowing in on me, but not quite. Yeah, it's an interesting scenario. Normally you get very, very hot on these training rides. And I think that's the other day I still got my jacket on. And I have been thinking about what's been on my mind, what's been to the forefront of my mind. There've been a few things. One thing in particular was a program I've been watching on TV called Race Across the World. It's a series. This is the second of a series. So it's a reality program. There were four couples who were challenged. So the challenge was to race, in this case, the length of South America for the price of an air ticket without taking a plane. So they had to get from one end, this was their budget, and they could work en route to earn more money if they needed to. I forget how long they had to do this. Several weeks. And there were checkpoints where they would all check in, all arrive at a particular hotel thing every couple of days. And they could see at that point, who was in the lead, what distance there was between them. So they'd all arrive at these checkpoints eventually, and then they'd set off in the order in which they'd arrived. So if one couple was like 18 hours behind the others, they would start the next day 18 hours behind the others. And the choice of the couples was interesting. There were two cousins who really didn't know each other, had lost contact with each other in life. There was a brother and sister who didn't get on very well, not had a great relationship with each other in life. A married couple. That was interesting. She was quite a drama queen. And a mother and son. I'm sure the son was probably maybe nearly 20. So Sam and Joe. Sam being the son. And so that was the challenge. And the winners, the ones who arrived at the destination first, would win £20,000. Now, I tuned into the last of the series last Sunday, late, I missed the beginning. And they would track all the couples en route, and there was no sign of the mother and the son. And I had felt very connected to them. I've travelled with my younger son often. And we travelled in South America, was it 2-3 years ago? Mostly on buses, which is a typical way to travel. And if you don't fly, it's typically buses, and crossing borders, which can be quite a stressful thing at times, because you just think, have I got the papers? Is there going to be some uprising or something? Which there was during this program. They had to divert their routes at times because of the demonstrations in. I think there was some in Quito, and so in Ecuador was completely closed to them at one point. And at the time when I travelled with my son, my younger son, he had not long broken up. His relationship had broken up, and I'd say he wasn't in a great state. And he lives in New Zealand. He had support there, but I would say wasn't very skilled, had made a lot of difference. And if there's one thing I think was really impressed on me after and during our traveling in South America especially, was that because I think when you've got somebody in your family, and if you're a coach, which I am, it's not likely he's going to sit in front of me and go, okay, let's work through this issue, Mum. I mean, that's not to say he wouldn't ask for advice, but I'm not going to sit there and just ask clean questions of him, for example. You could, but I wouldn't with him. And what was really impressed on me in that time was that what really makes a difference, made a difference, is traveling. And traveling in that kind of way where there's a challenge, not where everything's laid on and you're in a luxury hotel and you just get this. I mean, flights can be challenging, but where you have to find your way and you have to find your accommodation and you're faced with challenges, which of course is what these couples were faced with. And I found, for example, when my son and I traveled through Bolivia, we took this kind of safari ultimately to the salt flats there. And he was very involved in the loading and the unloading of the vehicle we were traveling in with our guide, which is very physical work, loading the equipment and the luggage up onto the top of the vehicle and then getting it off at the end of the day. And that kind of physical activity with new challenges, that and humour really make a difference. And if there was one thing that I sought to do with him, for example, at that time, was to find ways to make him laugh. Because that's what provocative therapy, what provocative coaching is all about. It's not all about laughter, but it plays a big part. If we can laugh at ourselves, it means we've kind of disconnected from all the emotions, and we can look at ourselves from kind of what I would call a meta perspective. Anyway, this couple, the mother and son, and they'd blown their budget basically because the son always wanted to eat a lot, which my son did when I was traveling with him. I could eat a lot quite lightly, and he had a big appetite. I mean, he was about 6'5". And so the same with this couple. And they took detours to really connect with the culture of the places that they were traveling through, and had some, I would say, life-changing times for him especially, just staying for a while with a local family, for example. And what had happened was that they had blown their budget, but they had decided not to complete the whole journey, not to battle for the prize at the end. And so they had let go of what they were expected they should do, they must do, because you could see the others, especially the two couples that came very close at the end, really becoming very tense. It was a very close finish as they raced towards this final destination, under a lot of pressure. And here were this mother and son. They decided to stop where they were, which I think was with a local family who had horses, and to finish their journey with a horse ride into the sunset. And so I felt really quite sad at first, that they hadn't finished. I'm sure they could both have really benefited from the money. And then subsequently I thought, in a way they were the real winners. They did what they really wanted to do. They let go of the have to have the money, have to get to the destination point, have to do it in a certain time, have to race against the others. And they just did what they wanted to do. And I really admire them for that. And yeah, I believe that they really did win. And so, when we're coaching, when I'm coaching somebody, when you're coaching somebody, if you are a coach, very often this is the key area, is how people express their outcomes. And they can often be driven by shoulds and oughts, and must, tick off these boxes and do this in this time and get that number of things and earn that amount of money. And if you've ever read The Alchemist, the book, it highlights the fact that we have what we want already. We just sometimes don't know it. And the shoulds and the oughts and the musts and the tries are another language pattern that are known as limiters, that typically create tension, that restrict us from being our best selves. And shoulds and oughts are usually what kind of other people think we should be doing, that we've taken on board for ourselves. And so this couple in the program had let go of those things, and they did what they wanted to do, having run out of a budget, which turned out to be, I think, a bonus for them. And it just prompted me to think about the fact, if you are and you're doing and being what you really want, then you're being the truth of who you are. You will attract people who want to connect with the truth of who you are. If you are doing what you should do, ought to do, you're pushing for, let's say sales and business and so on, then that's what people connect with. And it's not the basis for a healthy relationship, I would say. And I think going forward from this time of the pandemic, I think that's one of the things that's key for the future. That, I'm watching advertisements on television which are saying, how you need to think about this and buy this. And I think it's time to let go of those things. It's time to live a simple life, to let go of the things that we felt we should do, ought to do, and not to succumb to the pressure of having to have, that fancy car or that latest designer bag or those shoes. Or, I succumb to these things as well. I've got a car out there at the moment, it's got water coming through the roof. But I think it's one of those changes that's going to be important for the future, to respect ourselves and this planet, the earth on which we live. And I remember when I was leaving, I was thinking about change in the corporate world, and one of my colleagues, managers, had created this very special new role for me, and I couldn't bring myself to say yes to it. I had sleepless nights about it. I just felt like I should, because he'd created the role, and I ought to say yes, and I just kept putting him off. And we had a day with an external consultant. It was actually on a topic called transactional analysis. And at the end of the day, which was something I studied a lot as well, and at the end of that day, I drove this consultant back to the station. And I was telling him about the dilemma of this decision. And all he did, and it was a life-changing thing that he did for me, was he turned to me and he said, "What do you really want, Sue?" And then he got out of the car and went into the station and got his train. He changed my life in that moment with that question. I'll never forget it. And it was so simple and so profound. So those shoulds and oughts and musts and tries are language patterns that are known as limiters. So how might you be limiting yourself in the way you're thinking about your, if you like, goals? What do you really want? And how have you already got it?